Okay, why don't we call the meeting to order?
Hey, Dan Keeter.
Here.
Scott Griffin.
Here.
Lisa Ledeen.
Here.
Teresa Rose here. Rachel Ryan.
Here.
Russ Roloff.
Here.
And Tim's here.
Oh, here.
Do we have a motion to approve the revised agenda?
I will make that motion. Second.
Any discussion? Motion approved. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 20th board meeting and the special meeting that was held on June 3rd?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on those? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Motions to approve the bills payable.
I'll move to pay the bills.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed, bills paid. And Tim's report.
Yeah, I want to report back a review of the literacy symposium that you guys approved that I could go to, so thank you very much. And it was a really good 2.5-day conference, and I just jotted down a bunch of the information, and I need to share some of this with administrators as well. What I really liked about it was they brought in professors of literacy and reading from across the United States for just hour little conversations and updating you on data and how they look and perceive things. And some of it was quite honestly contradictory to what I've heard over the last few years, and some of it's a little bit contradictory to the direction that we're going. And I was mainly there just listening to hear what their thoughts were, but just to give you an example, this one gentleman, Dr. Tim, I can't remember his last name, he talked about the fact that a lot of school districts and a lot of organizations are going to level reading, and we're doing that because students get engaged then. So if your daughter or son's at one level and Scott's daughters, we let them read at that level and we ask similar questions based off of that, but with what they're reading. And he really believes that there needs to be still a hybrid of some very complex text for all students as well. And then he was able to go up and give a passage of about 100 words, and he would show what vocabulary or what text was very important to pre-teach. And I'm a former elementary teacher that has had some background training in reading, and I was wrong on about 50% of the words. He would make you in your mind pick which words you would pre-teach if you were a teacher. And then he would explain why he was teaching these more complex text instead. And it kind of made sense to me after I was listening to him. And what I liked about it was these professors weren't necessarily representing Houghton Mifflin, they weren't representing McGraw-Hill, they were there just to talk to you about some approaches that they were taking. There's also a lady that got up, and she's a professor on ELL, and that is the fastest growing student population in the United States, and it's not going to go away. It's going to become, without a doubt, a core of our population. And she said that she's in California, and most ELL students are now third generation ELL students. So they've been born here, their parents were born here, but they're still an ELL student because of where they're coming from in their home and their background. And so she gave the statistics on in just the state of California, which has a high population of ELL students, but that is slowly going to be reflected across the United States and other pockets as well. And it made me think, yeah, that could potentially then be happening here as well. She talked about the need for increased funding for ELL because you have to get into more vocabulary, you have to get into more usage, you have to get into more grammar with those students, and 5 years isn't enough. And one of the legislative changes that was brought forth in this session was that school districts can receive funding instead of 5 years now for 7 years. So that is a reflection of what our own legislative body talked about. Another gentleman came and he talked about one-on-one technology initiatives, and he gave some of the following percentages, that only 4% of schools that have gone to one-on-one technology initiatives have completely gotten rid of their textbooks. So
Say that again?
only 4.2% of schools that have gone to one-on-one initiatives have gotten rid of their textbooks. So his comment was that schools say they're going to go to a one-on-one initiative, and part of the way to pay for it, eliminate textbooks, but they're not doing it. And he wasn't saying this as a good or bad thing. He was just saying this as a reality of where we are right now with technology. And he said that, yeah, maybe down the road, there'll be more schools getting rid of it. But he also gave other statistics that even teachers who incorporate technology in their classroom, the average amount of hours that they use it on average is 2 hours. So you figure in a 6.5 hour day, how often is technology being used? So he gave those as statistics as well. So again, it was a very good conference to go to. I learned a lot where I can now come back and talk with Jen Reichel, Mary Pash, talk with our elementary, even though it is K-12, it was more focused, K-6 definitely. Another gentleman, professor, talked about gamifying education, and that how teachers who are good and who are outstanding are eventually going to be able to gamify everything, because that's how the American culture is wired. And he didn't mean just necessarily turning the technology into a game. He gave statistics on how much we compete and how much money is spent on competition and how we all love to compete. And so he gave these examples of good learning situations where you could turn it into a game or a fun competition. And then he gave some examples of New York students who did they had to do a 1-minute video on a social service for the community. Well, in order to do that, you have to know some technology. You need to know how to research, Google, write, etc. And it was really cool how he was able to, as a professor, turn almost everything that you learned into a game and a competition. And really, quite honestly, when he spoke, you were engaged, you were listening, because he was making you compete against others at the table with you. And you were in competition, full mode, and he talked about that.
Now, the one thing we know about you after 13 years.
I know what you're going to say.
You like to win. So this must have been really appealing to you.
Yeah, it was, but I didn't win in my little group. So that was very disappointing. But anyway, it was very interesting in some of those concepts now to come back. And I did bump into Mary Pash and Jen yesterday, and I just talked a little bit about the research on texts and leveling of text, and they said, wow, we have not heard that side of the research. And I jotted down some of the research that he had given. So anyway, very good conference, and I'd say probably all the presenters, 70%. And I think that's very good, because a lot of you have been to conferences before, and sometimes you go and you can be there for an entire 2 days and you're like, oh man, that was painful and I didn't learn anything. So it was good to be able to go to that and come back with some things for Hastings. Follow up on the legislative session. I'm just going to share as a board, still over the next 2 weeks, we're finding out the information. I know that Kim tomorrow is going to a very important meeting where they'll go through with her a lot of the things that happened in legislation. How do they tie to money? What is the money? What is the reality? Because I think what's happened now, and we've seen it, you'll get a report from MSBA, you'll get a report from MASA, you'll get a report from C, you get all these different interpretations. And with a lot of what happens in legislation, there's a lot of these formulas that are thrown out. And so you're applying the formula how you think the intent was. Well, Kim tomorrow will go and she'll find out, it is tomorrow, isn't it? Okay. She'll go tomorrow and she'll find out the true intent of the formula. But just to give you a recap of some of what's happened, we heard a lot about education this session because that was one of the focal points of why they had to go into special session and discussion. And we know that a lot of the discussion was the governor holding out on preschool education, etc. We've seen that there's more money given to scholarships for early childhood, so we'll find out a little bit more about that, how much more, how do we apply it, etc. We've seen where it's 2% on the formula and 2% on the formula of what they were looking for. And just to give you a feel for a board, as we've done those calculations, 2% each year would be roughly around $580,000 for us as a district. And I think one of the things that happens is that a lot of our work groups, a lot of our unions see that we're getting 2% on the formula, 2%. So then there's a feeling, well, then they should be able to get a 1.5% or 2%, raise. Well, 2% on the formula doesn't mean that our entire budget got a 2% lift. 2% on the formula is just this, and it is the largest pot of money, but it's just one pot of money. Our other pots aren't going to get this 2%. And as you board members know, $580,000 does not go a long way. We shared when we negotiated with the teachers that our health insurance just for the teachers going up with what's in our contract is $250,000 to $280,000 roughly just for them. That's not all of our other employees. So that's not our bus contract going up. So $580,000, although we appreciate it a lot, and we know it's more than what we projected, and so if there's any legislators that are watching, we really appreciate that they do support education. It's still a situation where we've got to watch our budget and watch our bottom line. A lot of discussion on QComp and that there's more money put towards QComp. How many new schools can get in, what had happened to QComp. And for those of you board members who don't know a lot about QComp, it was probably about 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, where legislators wanted teacher contracts to change and you could put personal goals in the contract, and the QComp was dollars then to help push for that. So if at an elementary they set a goal of improving on their MCA reading, every teacher would get $1,000 or whatever it might be. And what happened was there was only so much money for so many schools to get in. And those schools got in, and then the state said, oh, that's it, no other schools can't get in. So we were a little bit cautious in the beginning because were they going to keep funding this? Were we going to change our entire contract? And then they withdraw this money. Did we want to levy our citizens for this money? Did we want, both us and the teachers union at that time said, whoa, here, let's really talk about this. And so now there has been some dollars added to that. Now how many new schools can get in? Not really sure on that. They did a waiver for teachers so that if you have teachers who can't pass a certain segment of the teaching, I'll just call it the teacher's test, you as a district can ask for a waiver. I really like this approach. You get the information. I know whether Russ passed the test or not. I know whether Andy passed that teacher test or not. I know whether Scott passed it or not. And yet, I've had you for 2 years. I know you're outstanding with kids. I know you raise test scores. I know you're outstanding with parents. So I want to ask for a waiver to give you 2 more years to pass just that science test or that math test. And already we've used it. 5 days ago, I sent in a waiver for a teacher of ours that she's outstanding. She's been doing an outstanding job with us for 3 years, and there's just one component that she can't pass. I'd say that it's the farthest thing removed from the subject that she teaches. So why would I not ask for that waiver for 2 more years? So I think our legislators on that one really listened to superintendents and said, let us also be the judge. Don't come down so hard and fast. And that allows this person 2 more years to really focus in on the science portion of the test when she'll never teach science to the students that she's working with in her subject level. So I like that part of it. They've changed the date. Schools now can start after September 1st. We've always had the Labor Day law. This has come back and forth, and I'm sure this will be again, because there's heavy lobbying on this law, really from the vacation, the resorts, the state fair. They want people to be able to still go to the resorts. They want people to still, and kids to still be able to go to the state fair. So for now, it's back to you can start after September 1st, but I bet the next legislative session there'll be heavy lobbying about till not after Labor Day, but that's a lot change for right now. I already mentioned the ELL from 5 years to 7 years. I really I really like that and appreciate that as well. You can imagine some students coming to you in second grade. Are they really ready to be exited from that extra help of ELL service? They're not. And they might be able to speak the language quite well, but can they comprehend, can they use it? So I really like, and it's not a lot of money that we get for ELL services, but it's definitely going to be a help. Staff development is money that school districts get. It's supposed to be used for all personnel, but quite honestly, we use a majority of it for teachers. They've now changed the law where we can now use that staff development dollars for TDE, the teacher development and evaluation process. I think that's good because, again, they're giving us flexibility. So what they're saying is if you have to send some teachers out to training, and we do, where they can observe other teachers and give feedback for those teachers, you can now use staff development dollars for, or we think, Kim will find out more, but that's my interpretation so far. If you needed to send some principals out on the teacher evaluation process, you can use some of that money. I think it's going to say that if you need to buy some software for tracking purposes. So I'm hoping that that's what that change is, and Kim will share more with us tomorrow on that. And then a big one, and I just shared some with the facility committee before we came in here, and that is every year that I've been a superintendent, I've complained about the inequity of this, that there are 26 schools in the state of Minnesota that can come and do facility planning at a board meeting like this and say, yes, we're going to do that roof. Yes, we're going to do that parking lot. And they go out and levy for it. And of course, those were the 26 larger schools, you know, because Minneapolis, Eden Prairie, St. Paul, White Bear Lake, Stillwater, where the board could come and say, oh, you need to redo the middle school roof and you need to redo a portion of high school, and you'd agree, and then we'd levy for it. Well, they've listened. I didn't think I'd ever see this, but I think what Kim's going to hear is that now school districts, the other 300 and some school districts, to a certain formula, are now going to be able to have more money for some capital and health and safety projects. And from what we've read so far, it's substantial. It's 500 to 600,000 more for us than what we have typically coming in. And again, Kim's going to find out more about that. One requirement is that you have to turn in a 10-year facility plan to the Commissioner of Education by the end of this summer. And I don't know how the Commissioner's going to read 330 facility plans that include 10 years of time, that include health and safety projects, that include all, but we're okay there because we've been working with Wold and Scott McQueen over the last few years, and in fact Scott and Mike Brabender had just started to update our 10-year plan because they knew that I was thinking of starting a intense community group again to start looking at where should we be, like we did when Russ, I don't know, what was that, 5-6 years ago now that you were on that plan, on that committee. So we're okay there. We have a core plan now that we can go back to, but in July here I'll start meeting with them to update that. So I think that's a plus too. So I think when you wrap up this whole legislative session, there were a lot of positives for education, a lot of positives. And I think that the governor left his stamp that whether he's in office or not, he wants and expects Minnesotans to look at a 4-year-old program down the road, and he left that message loud and clear. So as soon as we know a little bit more and Kim knows a little bit more, we'll put out our own little update to you, and I'll probably put it out to all staff as well as what happened this legislative session. Our facility committee meeting update that we just came out of, I stalled off half of it because, and actually we wouldn't have had time for it anyway. We went with Mary O'Brien and looked at facility usage. Mary took 10 comparable school districts that I typically use, and she looked at what do they charge if somebody comes in to use the gym, what do they do with JO volleyball, wrestling club, basketball boosters, religious organizations. And we had met with Mary probably about 3 months ago, and our committee had said, yes, bring us back more information. We are willing to listen and look at this. And I don't want to go into detail right now because I want Mary to have some time to meet with the users. I don't want them to learn about it, but at our next work session, I'll more in depth be able to share with you as board members what she outlined, and I'll probably do it in a mailing to you as well. But our committee overall was very pleased with what her and her subcommittee, and I think that was neat too. She had a subcommittee that she bounced it off of, and they looked at all this information, and then they formulated a proposal to us as a working facility committee, and we agreed with a lot of what her subcommittee had proposed. But I shared with the projects, we didn't have, we've had quite a few projects in the 3 previous years. We haven't had a lot of projects that we're wrapping up right now. I don't know if you came in by the middle school tennis courts, but we finished the other side with the overlay. Again, Jim Huberti and our maintenance staff has said that they've been very impressed with the 2 years that the first half was in, and so they finished the second half. So now all 8 middle school tennis courts have the overlay surface. Our middle school chiller project is finishing up right now as we speak. Our fire alarm upgrade that we were required by law to do, which was a pretty big project, they're in the middle of that. Tiles are pulled, and one of the good things about this project, they're just pulling all wires that aren't supposed to be up there. You can imagine over the years and years, we've had high costs because people come in to do a job and they're like, I need to hire 3 extra guys to find out where these wires all go. So that's been a big part of the project as well. Another thing that up at the high school, when you came in the main entrance, the soffits were starting to fall out of that main entrance. We fixed those soffits. We had a mid-year project in the weight room up at the high school where we redid the entire floor so we don't have safety issues now. They used to do box squats and squats on a raised floor, and we had worries, and rightly so, about kids having 300 pounds on their back and falling off of that 2-inch lip. So now it's all one surface. So our projects for this year are wrapping up. I didn't even get a chance to share this with the facility committee because we had to run in here. Jim said that, until he heard about this money that we might be getting, next year's bigger projects that he'd be looking at would be seal coating another section of the high school parking lot, seal coating part of the middle school parking lot so that we begin protecting that. That'd be 2 of the big ones. And then the high school gymnasium floor, whether we do it this next summer, we have been proposing to do it this next summer. But if you look at the 5 gyms in a row, if you get to the far one, the 5th one, that's not wood, it's a rubber membrane floor. On that far end, water has circled and leaked underneath that floor and underneath the track, mainly that track corner and part of that basketball gym. If you would go to dribble a basketball in that corner, it wouldn't come back to you. That's how, so we know what's underneath the floor probably. It's probably some mold in that corner. We've been doing tests, etc. But that's a very, very big, expensive project if we get into that, because it would go to repainting the track floor. We'd have to shut down the gym. It probably, once you take up part of one gym floor, you'd have to take up another. So those are the 3 projects that's gym of big magnitude that we're looking at. So,
Jim, is that just a design flaw?
well, that would be the question of when the water came off the roof. Was it design, or was it that we didn't slope or keep the slope away like we should have?
Oh, do we adjust that, or because we see that all the time?
Right.
Those types of deals.
So, that was the question that I'd asked Wold already. Is this water coming underground? Is it coming off the roof and circling? Should have the spouts been going downspouts, for lack of a better word, been going a different angle? Is there not enough slope away, etc.? But they've determined that it's not water coming up underneath the ground, because it'd be there constantly, and it's not there constantly. So it's water circling down the little hillside and coming in underneath the door. So those are my 3 superintendent reports.
Thank you. Next up, we have a fun item. We get to appoint Andy.
And I'll have Andy come forward.
Yeah. Should we do the motion?
Oh yeah, we better approve it first.
Yeah.
Before I swear him in.
Just by way of brief background information, when Angie left the board, we had a committee formed to interview potential replacement candidates. And Andy did very, very well with respect to his resume, with respect to the interview process. The committee recommends unanimously that the board accept Andy as a board member. I'll let Andy maybe say something about himself when the time comes. But first, do we have a motion to appoint Andy to the Hastings Board of Education?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Oh, we got to do a roll call. Sorry.
Okay, Dan Keeter.
Yes.
Scott Gerken.
Yes.
Lisa Dedee.
Yes.
Teresa Mose, yes. Vince O'Brien.
Yes.
Russ Fuller.
Yes.
Well, with that, I'll have Andy come up in front of the camera.
You guys are too easy.
Don't want to scare you off till afterwards.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I swear
I swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
and that I will discharge faithfully
and that I will discharge faithfully
the duties of the office of school board
the duties of the office of school board
of Independent School District Number 200
of Independent School District Number 200
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
Congratulations, you're in.
All right, thanks.
Wait a minute, let's get the photograph of that. You guys, so we can stick it on Andy's Facebook page. We did that for Angie, too. Cool.
All right.
And Andy, do you just want to say a couple sentences about you and your family or something?
Sure. So I'm obviously a transplant. I grew up on the other side of Wisconsin, came to school here in 2004. Got my wife up in St. Cloud State, and she's from the area. She grew up in Detroit and then moved down moved to Hastings, I think, in 2001, 2000, somewhere around there. So she's been in the district the whole time. Was working in the southern part of the state, and we relocated here about 5 years ago. We had a couple kids on the way. Figured it'd be nice to be back home, be closer to family. And one of the biggest things that we looked at when we were relocating was, there's all these little towns around here. What makes sense? Now that we have a little more responsibility, where are the good school districts? Where are the good communities? And that was the biggest reason we settled on Hastings. Was good reputation, good people. We felt it's going to be the best place for us to raise our kids. So excited to be here. Glad you guys called me back, and looking forward to working.
Well, thank you.
Now, and as much fun as it's been to have Russ join us and have Andy join us, let's kind of stop this now.
Good
Keep
point.
this group together, at least. Do we have a motion? Well, no, are we gonna have the presentation first and then the motion?
I'm just gonna have Kim talk.
Oh,
Cool. Whatever you.
Yep, I was just gonna have Kim talk about the budget a little bit, and I think at some point after the 4th of July here, Kim and I will invite Andy and Russ in, just to go through the overall budget in a little bit more detail and what we look at and what are some of the key things that we look at. But with that, Kim, why don't you go through the core of the adopted budget for 2015, 2016?
Okay, I think what we want to focus on, again, is the general fund, the unassigned. Even though, especially this year, we don't have as much updated information because of legislation, teacher settlement, we still have to approve a budget to continue operating. It has to be approved by June. So basically this budget is the budget that we had for the 5-year projection. It's that budget plus all the teachers that retired were removed. There's estimated amounts in for the positions that are going to fill them. We still have the same student numbers that we had projected last year, which will be updated in October. This budget includes a 1.5% increase on the formula, and the state actually gave us the 2%, so that will be adjusted once we know. There is 3 vacant kindergarten positions in this budget that haven't been filled yet, so it'll be dependent on what the kindergarten numbers come in. So if our numbers go down, then those positions won't be filled. The special ed aid, there's still stuff going on with that. We still don't have a firm number on what our special ed aid is. There are estimates in here for the teacher settlement. And that's about it. Otherwise, all the other assumptions were the same assumptions that were used in the 5-year projection. Okay, so if you look at that little yellow box on the bottom right-hand corner, when we had done the 5-year projection, we had shown that if we did nothing, we would be overspending by 1.1 million.
Yep.
Okay. And then the board determined that you would try to hit a $750,000 reduction. And we actually hit, and it's the next number, we actually hit $1 million reduction. And it goes to, we had 16 teachers retire instead of 4 that was projected. So that is the main change in this budget. So in this budget, we're actually overspending by $99,737.
So where we thought, and we approved that we would reduce our savings account or our budget by about $750,000, it's actually going to come in that much better.
Where the 99,000,
yeah,
that's reducing it.
Yeah.
That would have ended up being a 422,000 expenditure over revenue, which was because you reduced expenses by 750,000.
Okay.
So we're like 400,000 to the better of what we projected at this point.
So is that 11,731,000? Is that the fund balance?
Yeah,
The far right. So we came into it with a fund balance of 11,831,000.
Yeah.
We're coming out of this budget cycle with a projected 11,731,000 with the adjustments that you have already spoken about.
Right, and then there'll
Still pending.
right, there'll be more adjustments for the
Right.
revised budget, but
Right.
this is where we're at this point in time. And so that's really kind of
So what we do,
all there is to it right now.
as our cycle on budgeting, as board members know, in November and December, we get the meat and potatoes, we look at the 5-year projection, and we say, okay, we're going to look to reduce by this amount. Then, at this time of year, we then adopt a budget, because by law, as you heard, by June, we have to, our auditors will say you need a budget adopted. So now Kim puts in on these projected numbers, and of course, then over the summer, hopefully we settle our teacher contract, and then we know for sure who was hired over the summer. And so then in the fall of the year, I come back to, or Kim comes back to you and says, here's another revised budget now. And then as we get closer to that December, we start getting our audit back in November, and we do know, okay, this is how we did end up. And then we start the cycle again. So really good news for us, and part of the really good news was definitely, and of course we still have to settle contracts, and we still have to see how our kindergarten numbers come in, but we need to see that every year anyway. So overall, this was really good news, and a lot of it can be attributed to, there is no way I would have bet even $10 that we would have had 16 people retire this year. And when they retire, you do get a savings, and that was a big part of why the improvement came.
Do you need this on?
So any questions for Kim? Well, thank you then. So that we can meet our auditing purposes, I ask that you approve adopt the
Yep.
budget for 2015-16.
Yep, we need a motion.
I'll make the motion. I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Kim, very much. Next up, per Tim's contract, for the last 5 years or so, is that about right?
Yep.
There's been a professional goals incentive included in the contract. We call it the GRILE clause or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Do one of you people from the committee do you want to?
Sure, I can just quick summarize where we're at. So there were, Tim had four goals to achieve through the professional incentive in this 2014-2015 year. It was training of 2 district staff, in HR practices and policies. The second one was development and training for the 5 administrators that were new to the district. We're retiring last year. The third one was integration of technology into curriculum and development of the integration specialist position. And then the final goal was support of the Vision 2025 process. Throughout the year, Tim kept our committee, which was the Administrative Negotiations Committee, just up to date with bullet points of how he'd been working on each of those goals, and there was concurrence amongst the committee that he had met on every goal, and our committee supports the payment of that professional goals incentive. General nodding from the other members of the committee.
No,
You want
I-
to jump in on something else?
I absolutely agree. The one that, there's a couple of them that really stand out to me. Well, 3, really all of them. My Vision 2025 has been a huge initiative, and Tim has been very supportive and very active in that. The bringing along of our new administrators, I think that's been very successful as well. I have a soft spot for the technology integration piece. I think that that has gone really, really well. Also, I'm not as in touch with the HR portion of it, but we don't have a dedicated HR specialist here in the district, as many do. So obviously that's very important as well. So I think all of these were met or exceeded. I think Tim did a great job.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have a motion
I'll make that motion.
and a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up, a policy, 807, health and safety.
Yeah, we have a lot of health and safety coming at you in the next 4 motion items. Approving the policy 807 is just giving, fact that it exists. It's not that we're asking for a new policy, and the policy matches up with our practices and what we are doing. So in other years, I've had Mike Braybender come here, and he goes through the list of all the expenditures for the health and safety, et cetera. We no longer have Mike Braybender. We now have Shonda from a health and safety firm. She's taken the time to look at the policy and then put forward the budget, which in a lot of years it's a lot of the core things in the budget. It's buying chips for the playground, health and safety. It's lockout, tag out. It's other training, et cetera. So it's a lot of core things year in and year out that come from health and safety dollars and meet those requirements. So I'm asking the board to approve the policy and the budget that goes with that here for our District 200.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Just a quick question. So everything, obviously, I was looking through, just kind of stuff that came through, and it was, we're using an outside firm, which makes sense. Do our insurance people offer any of that? I mean, I know they're a big organization. I don't think we might be able to get some of those items from them, from a loss control standpoint.
I don't know, Kim?
What do you mean by our insurance companies offered, if they offer an incentive?
No, I mean, just you look at some of the things on the list of what we're outsourcing, which again, makes sense to bring someone to do some of that, but I don't, I believe it's Gallagher, right? Dr. J. Gallagher is doing all that health and safety. I know they have a loss control department, quite a bit of extensive loss control for clients I work with. Even on a much smaller scale, when you think of how much you spend in your premium dollars, might be worth looking into to see if they can come out and help us with some of these things. Or if nothing else, at a reduced rate. Because often it's cheaper to go through those avenues than to hire 100% out.
All right, we'll check into that. I don't even know if that was something that I was aware of, so I'll check into that.
Yeah.
I like machine guarding. I want to know what that's all about. I want to go guard some machines. Yeah. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And next up is 917, Health and Safety Program and Budget.
And Dan is our board member that sits 917 for new board members. 917 is a collaborative cooperative that we're members of, mainly for special services, but we do have students that go there for alternative as well. And so they too, because they're a school collaborative, they have health and safety issues too, so they have their budget, and then we pay our fair share proration. So Bloomington's one of the school districts, so of course they pay more of the share than we do. Farmington's a school district, so they pay more than we do. So they too need us to approve their health and safety, and that we agree to pay our share of the health and safety costs as well.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion on that one? All those in favor? Oh, roll call. That's twice now, 3 times in a month.
Andy,
Here.
okay, Andy Bertrand. Dan Peter.
Yes.
Scott Kirkin.
Yes.
Lisa Dedeen.
Yes.
Teresa Moves, yes. Vince O'Brien.
Yes.
Ross Viola.
Yes.
And next up, a motion to approve primary vendors for the 2015-16 school year.
This is a process that we go through every year at this time, where they have to apply to, and Kim runs this process, and she looks at bids, et cetera. Or you don't look at bids?
The Big 8 does.
Okay, the Big 8 does. Well, you're still in charge of this, I'm not, but, and so these are the vendors, and a lot of the names are very familiar to you that we use, so we're recommending approval for them as our primary vendors for the 2015-2016 school year.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nice to see the Hastings Co-op again on there. Does that mean the Hastings Co-op is accepted in the Big 8?
What happens with that is, there's a bid that goes out. There's been years where it has been the co-op, and then there's other years where it isn't the co-op, but if the co-op agrees to abide by the bid amount that's given, then we keep the co-op.
Okay. Next up is speaking of the co-op, is the milk prices. Breakfast, lunch, milk prices.
Right, and some of you who, we try to keep our lunch prices as low as possible for many reasons. But also, I think as some of the board members, maybe it was about 2 years ago, the federal government also expects that if they're giving you so many products for free, that you also raise it to a certain rate, et cetera. And Kim gave that discussion about 2 or 3 years ago, that they didn't want to be giving a reimbursement rate at a higher rate than what people were charging students for lunch either. But even having said that, definitely as and it's a good thing, the requirements are coming in for a healthier lunch, a healthier a la carte, more fresh fruit, more fresh vegetables. There's a price that you pay for that as well. So Kim has worked with April on this, and we really need to be at the 10-cent increase that you see below, and some of the other increases as outlined. And I think in an email I outlined to you as well that at some point here, typically we've kept their budget that they have to do everything within their own budget. If they have to replace an oven, if they have to replace refrigeration, it has to come out of their budget. Because there used to be a time in the history of funding of schools and lunch programs that they could do that. The cost of lunches has not risen at a rate that the cost of replacement of stoves and kitchen equipment. And so I believe that down the road here, Kim and I talked about maybe next year when we create that budget, that we give a line item to food service from our general budget to help replace some of those costs. This budget even reflects a reduction in some staff for April as well. So she's trying to fine tune as much as possible to keep it low. We're going to be moving we had a custodian that was charged to food service. We're going to be moving that custodian out of there as a cost. So even with all that, I believe that next year our adopted budget will come to you with a line item for her to help replace and reinvest in some of the equipment. So with that, I think it's very good effort on her part to reduce her budget, reduce some of her staffing, do the best that she can to come in at the 10 cents and the nickel. So we're recommending your approval.
Anyone want to make the motion?
I'll make
I
the
have a
motion.
question, but should I wait for after the motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
doesn't matter. But yeah. Okay, motion by Dan, second.
I'll second.
And question by Lisa.
I do remember that conversation about getting in alignment with the federal reimbursement. Is that the primary driver to the increase, or is it
Actually,
the cost?
the nickel of it is the primary driver. The other nickel is based on, because you have to have so much fresh fruit and vegetables now.
Okay,
the
so it's
cost-
about half from the federal, and
And-
have to get in alignment with the
Right.
federal reimbursement, and half
Yeah.
because of the
Right.
increase.
And then,
quality.
like, I don't know if anybody's won bought chicken lately, but
Any-
chicken isn't home.
Chicken,
And
eggs,
that's
Chicken tank, but, because I bought a bunch of it today, it's stuck in my freezer, but eggs are really, really expensive.
Like they
And you know
told-
it's always something.
Yeah, they told
Something.
April today not even expect to be able to get eggs.
Yeah.
So the cost
Yeah.
of the
I think it's
actual-
fair, and I absolutely intend to support it. I just wanted to understand how much was coming from which purpose. Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Motion to approve a change order on the chiller.
And I didn't call Jim Huberty for specifics on this one because of the dollar amount. I just know that it's gone through Jim and Paul, who oversees it. So whether it's an upgrade in the chemical that has to be put in, or I don't know what it is, quite honestly, but I'm recommending approval because it does go through both of their sets of eyes.
Okay. Are you making the motion?
I'll motion.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Or any discussion?
I'd say it's a really small percentage of the total project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will say I misread it when I glanced at it the first time, and I thought it was 16,000, and I'm like, why haven't we heard about this? And then I'm like, oh, well.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Chilled. Motion to approve environmental health and safety contract with the Center for Efficient School Operations.
And I know some of the more veteran board members know that this ties back to Chuck Corliss, who started with us probably about 10 years ago independently. And at that time, Chuck did mainly transportation guidance, not only for our district, but for many districts. And then he branched out and created his own business called CSCO, Center for Efficient School Operations, I think is what it stands for. And we've had a good working relationship with him for those last 10 years. We were very fortunate. Every school district does have to have a health and safety management firm person who oversees procedures, whether it be OSHA, whether it be lockout, tagout, whether it be asbestos removal, whatever, that you're doing it according to the guidelines and or bringing forth recommendations. When I first came here, we were with IEA, Institute for Environmental Assessment. They came in, and I was not at that time satisfied with them at that time. I'm not saying if they're watching this that they're a terrible firm, but one of the things that was happening was we would get this core charge for a person to be here helping us. And then as we were doing projects, that person was here overseeing the removal of an oil tank, and then we were getting charged for them to oversee the removal of that oil tank on a day that they were already here. And so to me, I kind of felt like it was a double dipping. So then, we were fortunate that, and I don't know how many of you know Mike Brabender, but he used to come to this meeting. Chuck was able to hire him as our one person who oversaw facilities and health and safety. Then we threw crossing guards at him, and he just did it. Then we threw the vans at him, and so, oh, by the way, we're starting to buy vans. How do you feel about doing a maintenance check? How do you feel about changing the oil on them? How do you, so we had this gentleman who retired from, I believe, the Stillwater School District, who did health and safety there. So Chuck had a good thing and we had a good thing, because Mike could do it all. And when we were paying for him, I never knew if he was doing health and safety or facilities. I didn't really care. We had this one lump sum payment, just get the job done. Well, Mike wanted to retire the second time, so he retires here in October, and Chuck can't recruit anybody to do the health and safety because it's a very specialized, you need high training, you need to be qualified. And so he subcontracted, we still paid him, and he subcontracted at that time with another firm. And so it comes to this time of the year, and I met with Chuck and said, well, what's going on? Should I just contract with that firm directly? Should I contract with you? I know that I've got the facilities, maintenance, and transportation that you do for us. But, you know, what should I do here? What are your thoughts? And so we had about an hour conversation on all this. At the end of it, I said that he actually ended up losing money on the health and safety contract because what happened, Mike Brabender retires and he has to subcontract out for this other firm for more than what we're paying him, out of his control. So he ends up losing money on that part of the contract, but that's fine. He made some money on the other part of our contract. And I said for just this 1 year, and I know that typically we do a 3-year contract, and I said this is no offense to you, Chuck, but we've got this new law coming with facilities, deferred maintenance, health and safety, money. You can flex it. You can sometimes spend it on health and safety. I'd like to just for now enter into a 1-year contract on both of these with you. It'll give me some time to interpret this law, and quite honestly, it's going to give me some time more on the health and safety end to look about maybe doing something else differently a year from now. So the first one, item number 8, is to say that we're going to go with Cisco for the health and safety contract, and quite honestly, they're subcontracting it out to this other firm for 1 more year. I then am going to start calling school districts our size and find out what they do and what they do pay and who they do go with. And then the other one is his same typical facility transportation. If we have a project over $150,000, we pay him a percentage. If we don't, he just does it. And quite honestly, this year and next year, we don't have a lot of projects that we're foreseeing. So I'm talking about them together because they're the same firm, but they're 2 different entities. I don't believe that next year at this time I'll be going through Cisco for health and safety. I think that I will be going a different direction for health and safety. So I'm asking the board to approve that for a 1-year and Chuck was fine. He said that's fine. I understand good customer service. Let's do it for a year and let's shake the law out and let's come back to it in a year from now. So item number 9 is with Cisco, but it's subcontracting for health and safety, and so I'm recommending your approval on that. And then I'm also recommending the facility transportation contract that we've had with him for the last 9 to 10 years as well.
So first, number 9, anyone?
I'll make the motion. I'll second.
Any discussion? 1-year contract with Cisco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And the next up is the 1-year contract for professional management services.
I'll make that motion too.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We have some resignations.
I just want to mention, and I mean, losing them all is tough. I mean, you see some of them very experienced. We've talked before about the impact with the language arts at the high school in those positions and the classes that they taught. Down the road, there's going to be, Laura Hurley had a very unique certification at the middle school. She was dual certified as PI as well, which I believe is physical impairment, but I'm not 100% certain. And there's a very limited number of students that we needed that licensure for. But I know right now that the odds of hiring anybody with that dual licensure isn't going to happen. You know, Dave Haveman said that people don't carry that dual licensure anymore. So what that means down the road, he's going to be out talking to 917 or some other district if they do have somebody with that licensure who can come in maybe 4 times a year to check what we're doing with those students and make sure that we're meeting their requirements. So I just mentioned that down the road there might be something on the contract for an extension.
Okay, anyone might want to make the motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second it?
Any discussion? Thanks very much to all those people. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Resignations accepted. Motion to approve a change in the middle school Phi-Ed Secretary 1 position to Secretary 2 position.
We're on a system where Hastings for a while had gotten out of the system of pay equity comp worth of checking their jobs, and so Kim's done a great job of putting us on a cycle where every 4 years we do 25% of the jobs, we look at them, and in all honesty, most jobs don't change that much. They pretty much stay the same. This was a little bit unique. People also have the right to contact us and say this job has significantly changed since we started doing it. And so both Jim Rohr and Mark Zuzik had written about the job duties of this. And so it's an interesting combination because it's a grade change from a 1 to a 2, and a 2 is higher than a 1. And then also what percentage of the day is she doing that position compared to her other. And after going through all the documentation, looking at what she turned in, what Jim Rohr turned in, we sent it in, or it has been moved to a grade 2, and it's been determined that it's now at 50% of the job. And so 50% of her day is paid off a Secretary 2 now, or it will be if you approve it. And then 50% of her day is as a PSA who oversees the locker rooms when they're changing, et cetera. So we're recommending approval because it has gone through the process.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And then a few leaves to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve the leave.
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Leaves granted. And next up, we have 2 very important people retiring.
Many years of service. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you to Mrs. Frost, who was one of my teachers.
Oh.
Yeah, and Jill should.
45 years. My goodness.
I believe that's a record since I've been here. I can't believe I've seen anybody with more years of dedication and service than that, so yes, thank you.
And Jill sure did a good job over there at McCullough every morning and helping all those kids, all those needs. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. And a huge list of people to employ.
We had 16 retirements, we had resignations, we had some non-renewals, and this is now some of the interviewing process that has gone through. And you've heard about some of them, you've seen some of the write-ups and the background information on some of them as well. So some of them are, I'll be quite honest, are some tough positions to fill too. Just there are some specific specialty areas that are difficult to get people in the education world, and so we're very happy about the list of applicants and who we have been able to hire.
Make the motion.
I'll second
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Andy and Russ, just so you both know, there's a lunch at Green Mill Tuesday or Thursday of the week before, Friday before school starts, for all the new people. It's kind of fun. It's a good thing. Next up, a resolution that's going to require a roll call vote. Get that out of the way right away. But it establishes dates for filing affidavits of candidacy for the school board.
it. Andy Bertrand.
Wait, I think we need the motion first, don't we?
There's, well, maybe we should mention, since this is a televised one, that the dates are July 28th through August 11th. Closing on August 11th at 5 p.m.
And to apply, you just stop down here at the district office and drop off your information with your $2 filing fee.
And there's two resolutions because we have a special election for Russ's seat and then the other 4 seats. So that's why it's like a duplicate. It's not.
I'll make the motion while proposing that we waive the reading with the exception of mentioning filing fee amount and the dates, which you just did, so.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Andy Bertrand.
Yes.
Dan Cater.
Yes.
Scott Bergen.
Yes.
Lisa Dedine.
Yes.
Teresa Mose, yes. Vince O'Brien.
Yes.
Russ Roloff.
Yes.
And I think we need to do it for the second one too.
Yeah, I'll make the same motion if you reiterate that filing fee and date again. So waive the reading, but make sure that we mention that filing fee and date. I
Yep.
want to explain the whole, was it 4-1? There's 4.
4 seats open that are 4-year term, 1 seat that's a special, that's a 2-year completion of Andrew Yanis's term.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'll second.
And that person who fills that seat will start their term of office immediately, and the other person, or anyone winning the other election will start in January.
Correct.
All right. Andy Bertrand.
Yes.
Dan Cater.
Yes.
Scott Bergen.
Yes.
Lisa Dedine.
Yes.
Teresa Mose, yes. Vince O'Brien.
Yes.
Russ Roloff.
Yes.
Teacher negotiations meeting next Wednesday at 4:30, or that's 2 weeks. 2 weeks, yeah. And a regular board meeting July 22nd at 6:30. Any other business?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good luck, Ann. Oh, and a quick mention that we want to extend our best wishes to Gordon Gathright and his family, because they're going through some tough health issues right now.
Yes, thank you. Andy, I need you to sign twice for Deanna here for
Okay.
Thank you.
You'll do great.